With imaginative EVs like the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and Kia EV6 arriving on the scene, the prospect of something as straightforward as a pure electric BMW X3 might seem a bit underwhelming. And it is true that the BMW iX3 is kind of something of a does what it says on the tin kind of car. Certainly there's none of the ingenuity and kind of design genius of the BMW i3. But if you're after a pure electric posh family SUV, well, the X3 is one of the best posh family SUVs going, and in terms of the pure electric stuff, well, it does 286 miles from an 80 kilowatt hour battery, and that is not bad at all in terms of the range. But, and there is a big but, this thing costs from £60,000. And when you consider that you can get things like a Ford Mustang Mach-E, a Q4 E-Tron, a Tesla Model Y and far more for, some £10,000 and less, I do think that this has got quite a lot to prove in terms of the performance and the practicality that it offers if it's going to justify that price. Even though it has to be said that that price is very much in line with things like the Jaguar I-Pace, Mercedes EQC and the full-size Audi E-Tron SUV that are its conventional rivals. So, before we find out if it can justify that price, you're not going to get away with it. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the CarGurus UK YouTube channel and turn on your notifications so that you don't miss any of our fantastic videos. The BMW iX3 is a brand new electric model, but it is based on the existing BMW X3 platform and it looks, well, quite a lot like an X3. The faired-in front grille and blue highlights are the most obvious differentiators. The iX3 is pretty much just as practical as the standard X3, which is good news indeed because you get this really sizable boot, so you're going to get your chunky double buggy, couple of big dogs, whatever in there, no problem at all. However, it does lose a little bit of underfloor storage to those batteries, which run right along the bottom of the floor plan of this car. So even so, really nice big boot. The only disappointment is that you don't get any storage under the bonnet of this car as you do in a lot of EVs. It's a rear wheel drive car. You would have thought there's nothing under there, so it does seem like a bit of a missed opportunity. So as with the boot, you get just as much space back here in the electric X3 as you do in a standard petrol or diesel version. And I mean, that's a good thing. Look at the leg room, you've got loads of headroom. It's a really comfy place to be. You get this nice central armrest. It's a really nice place to sit. I have to say, I think you get more space than you do in a Jaguar I-Pace, but I do think that stuff like a Ford Mustang Mach-E, Volkswagen ID.4, they're right up there for this sort of rear passenger space too. However, in the iX3, you do get three-way split seats, so you can drop the middle for through loading, which is really useful, and you also get reclining seats in the back. So there's some nice neat tricks back here. The BMW iX3's dash may not have quite the glamorous finish of the Mercedes EQC and Jaguar I-Pace that are the iX3's closest rivals, but it is a huge step up on those other cheaper alternatives that we've mentioned. Material quality and general design and feel of the cabin feels well and truly worthy of a £60,000 car. The tech in here is really good too. In fact, this is the best system in the class just in terms of its usability. The screen graphics are great, the screen responds quickly, and more than that, you've got the BMW iDrive rotary controller down here, which makes it really easy to use when you're driving along, and I think that's just makes it the best of them all really. So no complaints there. You get all the equipment you'd expect in terms of your connectivity, your nav, wireless Apple CarPlay, all of that stuff. Not only that, but you also get loads of equipment otherwise. So even the cheapest of the two trims, you get lovely leather upholstery, heated seats, you get this glass roof that I've already mentioned, 19-inch alloys, powered boot lid, loads of stuff. And I have to say that equipment is one of the things that really sets this apart from some of those cheaper alternatives that I've mentioned. If you're expecting Tesla-style performance from the BMW iX3, you might be a bit disappointed. So this thing has got 282 brake horsepower, but it does also weigh well over 2 tons. And the result is that you've got 0 to 62 in 6.8 seconds, which sounds a bit mediocre next to some of its rivals, but to be honest, in reality, it feels really fast. Not just a bit kind of gutsy, but properly quick. Even if you're going quite quickly and you need a sort of mid-range burst, it picks up properly sharply. It's fun. It is a fun car, this. So I don't think that the on-paper figures really do it justice in that respect. It's also really lovely to drive in terms of the handling. So you've got your various drive modes as you'd expect. I've been driving this around in Eco Pro a lot actually. It doesn't feel like it's very compromised, and there are various individual settings in there, so you can choose how compromised you want your aircon to be or your top speed and all of this stuff. And if you do stick it in sport, then you get a soundtrack composed by Hans Zimmer of movie score fame, and it is pretty cool actually. I know everybody says EVs sound like spaceships, don't they? But this one definitely does. Although there is something of kind of, I don't know, some kind of monumental string orchestra or something. It's got that sort of multi-layered sound to it. It's pretty cool, I like it, and it does encourage you to use the performance on offer. So yeah, it's just really lovely. Steering's good, fast enough, precise enough, maybe not that textural, but it's still really encouraging and confident on a good road. I think this is pretty much the best premium large electric SUV to drive, short of a Jaguar I-Pace. This isn't quite as playful and thrilling and not as quick as an I-Pace, but it's still really, really nice to drive. And it's the kind of car, it's good enough to encourage you to take the long way home, and I think that's important to a lot of people, certainly to me. So I think the iX3 is actually justifying its price beautifully at this point. I do have one significant kind of quibble with this car and the way it drives. So the brake regen modes, it's got 3 levels, so a low, a medium and a high, which a lot of its rivals also offer. But the problem is you have to go right deep into the menus on the touchscreen to change it, which is a bit foolish. It does default to an auto setting, so I think BMW's thinking is that you'll leave it in auto and forget about it, which you can do because it works really well around town. Brake regen is where the car brakes when you lift off the throttle, and it's doing it to increase your range and improve efficiency and all of that stuff. And around town, actually, it works really well. But I've done a lot of miles in this car on the motorway, and the problem is if somebody pulls out into a gap in front of you, even with, you know, a few cars length in between you, the car panics because it's looking way up the road and it will suddenly up the brake regen, and that can catch you out. So if you lift off the throttle in order to increase that distance, the car brakes much more than you expect. And I mean, let's face it, you just don't want that sort of erratic, slightly unpredictable response from a car anywhere, let alone on the motorway. And I think that's not great. Sometimes it definitely gets caught out and it's not ideal. It's only occasionally, and generally on the motorway this thing's really lovely to drive, really refined, comfy, very planted, and actually a brilliant commuter. And more than that, the real world range in this car is fantastic. So even in the winter on the motorway, which is when any EV is going to be at its worst for real world range, you're still going to get 200 miles out of this car, I think. And in the summer, even in varied driving or on solid motorway miles, you're going to be seeing 250 to 280 miles, maybe even over that claimed if you do a lot of time around town or on slower roads. So really, it's actually one of the more efficient of the big electric SUVs, I have to say. Definitely way more efficient than, you know, for instance, the full-size Audi E-Tron SUV. Charging speeds are very good, with 150 kilowatt rapid charging matching that of the Audi E-Tron and delivering a 100 mile top up in about 15 minutes or less, or an 80% battery in around half an hour from a CCS compatible ultra rapid charger. So yes, I was a bit sceptical about particularly the price really of the iX3 next to the newer stuff that's arrived, that does at the end of the day offer a bit more practicality and a bit more performance for the money. But do you know what? I still think this car justifies itself beautifully. I think next to rivals like the I-Pace and the Mercedes EQC and this kind of thing, I can totally see why you would have this. It's the comfiest of them. I think it's actually got in some ways the nicest interior and the best infotainment. It's really lovely to drive. I think it's got the best handling short of the Jaguar, and all in, it's just a really compelling, really lovely electric family SUV. And it does feel like, you know, 60 grand's worth of car in many respects. So yes, I like it a lot. And while I'd say it's maybe not class leading, I think I'd have an I-Pace because I care about how a car drives, and I particularly like the way that car drives. It's just fabulous. This might not be as thrilling as the Jaguar then, but in pretty much every other respect, I think this is very close to a class leading car and is definitely one of our favourite large premium electric SUVs. Head to CarGurus.co.uk for loads of advice on buying and running an electric car, and of course for a whole host of fantastic used cars from top rated dealers.